and welcome to this, the very 6th episode of Here's the Thing, 8-minute movies. I did it all in one go. I'm so proud of me.
Well done.
I'm so proud. It's definitely always been called that. We'll go back and fix the other episodes. We won't.
We won't fix it. No.
We're not going to, no.
I'm very proud of you. However, this reaction that you've made does kind of lessen the impact. Like you could have just been cool.
You think I should just play it down next time?
Yeah, just nice and cool, like you had it down from the start. You know.
Yeah. I'll take your notes on board for next time. If there is a next time. There are 8 more episodes.
Yeah. Know very accurately how many more of these there are.
It's weird knowing exactly how many there are, except that we might do the last 2 as one long episode, because how much can you talk about the credits? You know what I mean?
True.
Anyway, hello, my name is Kieran.
And my name is Peter.
And we both have names, which means we're not the thing. Is that...
I don't think that's how that works, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right to me either, now that I think about it out loud. This is the part of the podcast where I ask you how you are doing. How are you doing?
How am I doing? I'm doing all right. I've been playing some video games. I've been pirating on the high seas.
Sea of Thieves. I know you've been playing that video game because you were playing it with me.
I was playing it with you, yes. So, how are you enjoying that experience?
It's very good. Aside from the fact that the sea makes me motion sick.
Yeah, that was
in a game about being on the sea. I don't know.
Knowing how motion sick you get at the slightest thing, I was worried for a while about you attempting this high seas game.
It's all right if I'm captaining it for reasons that aren't clear even to me. If I'm just on the boat, I feel sick.
How are you doing otherwise, Kieran?
Oh, absolutely fine. Asterisk.
Yeah, I get it. All right.
This is the part of the podcast where we talk about the concept of the podcast. I think it's your turn.
It is. So, Kieran is a Thing fanatic. I think it's fair to say you know a lot about the Thing. You have been enjoying the Thing from a worryingly young age.
I've got the Thing duvet cover.
Yeah.
I don't, but if they existed, I would.
I mean, I actually just accepted that without question, not even expecting it to be a joke.
Hang on, I'm going to go on Etsy and see if I can get one.
Yep. On the other hand, I have seen the Thing a few times, and that is mostly Kieran's fault that I have seen the Thing a few times. But I am not really as into the film. I'm less familiar with it, and it's not really my genre of film as well. So I've paid maybe less close attention to it. We have decided that it might be fun to break up the film into 8-minute chunks, and in each 8-minute chunk, take notes and then discuss in detail the happenings of that 8 minutes. Also, during that discussion, we have a bell, which we are using to call each other out whenever we say the Thing, and we're not talking about the monster, the Thing, and we're not talking about the film, the Thing, and we're not talking about the rules of this game that I just described.
I know we're recording a podcast and everything, but I really like that the Thing duvet cover. I'm definitely picking that one up the second we stop talking about this.
He's got a webcam and just showed me, and it is indeed very stylish. I like it.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, if I was that much into the film, I would be getting one myself.
That's your Christmas present sorted.
I think that just about covers the explanation, doesn't it?
Yes, excellent work, Peter. Thank you very much. Now it's time for the third section of the podcast. You can't tell I'm reading these off a checklist, can you? It's very clear. This section is and has always been called Let's Not Talk About the Thing, a section of the podcast wherein we talk about something tangentially related to the Thing while not actually being the movie itself.
What are we talking about this week, Kieran?
I am going to talk to you about the poster design.
Ah, that's good because I've always been a little bit curious about this poster design because it's if you're familiar with the poster, it's just someone who looks like they're in a kind of snow Arctic kind of snow gear, and just kind of a bright light shining out of the face hole of it, and in a manner that really seems to have nothing to do with the film as a whole. So I am assuming now, perhaps wrongly, that you have some sort of story about how this poster design emerged.
I do. Initial pre-production work for the poster of the thing was quite different from the version that we ended up with. They used an image of a set of black and white interlocking jaws fading in the sky above an Antarctic base, which was produced by the advertising art director Stephen Frankfurt, who also came up with the title "Man is the warmest place to hide," which is a really good tagline. I like that one. Unfortunately, Poltergeist, which was being released around the same time, was also using black and white imagery on their posters, so the studio didn't want them to carry on with that in case there was some confusion between the two things.
Same tagline as well, weirdly.
Oh, sorry. It sort of works, yeah. I can see that, actually. The poster they ended up with was, as you describe, a parka with beams of light boiling out instead of a face. And it was painted by Drew Struzan, an American illustrator who, at this point, has done more than 150 movie posters, including Blade Runner and Indiana Jones. You like Indiana Jones, don't you?
Yeah, I know what those posters look like. Yeah, I recognize that style.
Yeah. The studio gave him no guidance on what the film was like. He hadn't seen it, read the script, or seen any pre-production photographs. They just told him to think about the 1950s movie The Thing from Another World.
Huh.
He conceived, painted it, and delivered it to the studio within 24 hours.
Huh.
When they went to photograph it, they put it under a pane of glass to take a photo, and the paint stuck because it was still wet. The studio executive for Universal, Sid Sheinberg, changed the tagline to "The Ultimate in Alien Terror." Can you think about why they might have done that? I'll give you a clue. It's the word alien.
Ah, right. Okay. They were trying to get kind of the alien appeal in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Remember, this is just 4 years after Alien has been released. 3 years.
But before you said that, I was going to say, did they maybe think that "man is the warmest place to hide" was a bit sexy?
I mean, it is. So the movie's kind of run with both taglines, depending. I mean, like most of the posters at the time went with "The Ultimate in Alien Terror," but since then they've gone back to "Man is the warmest place to hide" because it's a better one. I think it's certainly not just trying to capitalize on the success of another movie that came out around the same time. How do you think John Carpenter felt about the poster?
I mean, given that I've always really liked it, I'm going to assume he hated it.
Good guess. He absolutely despised the poster. He saw it as the final nail in the coffin for the film. It was presented to him at the point where the movie was over budget, had been shown in previews, and people hated it. And the studio were like, "This is your poster. You don't really have any choice." His opinion was that they put so much effort into the film in moving away from the movie trope of horror films of it being a man in a suit.
Yes.
And then the poster they presented was a man in a suit. At the time, he said they should have just painted a bloody knife in his hand. But now, opinions have changed. It's considered iconic and instantly recognizable, and indeed Empire magazine lists it as the 43rd best film poster ever.
Huh. Yeah, no, I really like it. I never really knew the story behind it, and I don't really. I've always wondered, okay, what is it trying to say? And I guess the answer is nothing at all, really, because the person who drew the poster didn't know what was in the film.
And had a very slight idea of what it was about, but not as much as you'd notice.
Yeah, I just kind of like that it's just another thing about the film that I'm just going to do it myself.
Oh, hang on! You can't say things when I'm distracted.
It's just another element of the film that is in some way mysterious or possibly misleading about what is going on. I think that if they had done a poster that was a bit more on the nose about the monster or the nature of things, then it wouldn't have been as effective because.
Well, I mean, the poster that came up with is very compelling. I mean, it is, you see it and you're immediately, the questions arise like, what is this? Why is that man glowing? What is this about?
Yeah.
But the other poster, the original production poster, is also very interesting as well. I mean, you can look it up online by Googling blood smoke, because that's the sort of title they were using for it. And it's an interesting piece. I like it as well. But I think they went with the right one in the end, and they didn't really have any choice. So
yeah.
Now it is time for the fourth section of the podcast. Peter, what's another word for section?
Part.
The fourth part of the podcast, wherein I answer your questions from last time.
Hang on, how about segment?
I think segment is better than part, but I've already said part. The next one can be a segment.
Okay.
I'm going to answer your questions from last time. Woo! Insert jingle here. We don't have a jingle for this one.
Did I have any?
Yes, you did. Well, I'm not sure it really counts as a question, but I wanted to check.
It's an unresolved comment.
Yeah. Is Clark ever seen without his hat?
Right. Okay.
And you know what? I was like, yes, of course he is. Of course he is. And I scrolled through the entire film, the whole fucking film from start to finish. And yeah, he does. He is seen without his hat. But it's only after he dies. Spoilers. So what information can we draw from that? It's probably nothing more profound than the fact that he likes wearing a hat, is it?
I think we can assume that the hat was what was keeping him alive.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Right. Quite clearly. Right. What's the name for that sort of reasoning? I mean, aside from bad,
there's definitely some sort of Latin term.
Oh dear. Yeah, I even thought in the scenes where he's outdoors, maybe he's not wearing the hat because he's got like a sort of woolly hat on us, but he's wearing two hats. That's how much he likes that hat.
Or needs that hat to live.
Yes, that was the only question we had from last time. Does Clark take his hat off? No, actually, he never takes his hat off. It's removed for him by a bullet.
Oh, that's right. That's because I'd forgotten that.
Well, forget it again. That's all right. We're, at the rate we're recording this, it'll be a month before we reach that point. You'll have forgotten. All right. Now it's time for the main meat of the podcast, TM. Always going back to podcast meat. The section. No, it's not section. It's a segment. It's a segment. I'm sorry. I punished myself. The segment that we call Let's Talk About the Thing. So, I am going to just recap your answers from last time. Of course, yes. What happens next? And you said we cut back to the base to see Blair's computer simulation.
I was nearly right. There's just a little bit before.
Yeah. I mean, that's clear enough. It is almost immediately cuts away back to the base. There's just a little bit of chat before we get to that computer simulation. And of course, your infection tracker at the moment, you think Norris and Bennings are infected. Mm-hmm. And who's not infected? Definitely Clark and Blair. And people who are in the mystery zone are Fuchs, Windows, and Knowles. So how do you feel about those now that you've seen the next section of film? How do you feel about Bennings?
So a lot of these answers have changed, actually. I've made some notes on this, and we'll get to those as we go through. But I
Of
think that
course.
we're going to discover quite soon that I believe now that I was wrong about Bennings being infected at this point.
Either that or it's a very complicated double bluff.
Yes.
All right, then. Now we've spoken about that, and it's time to watch the next section of the film. We're going to be watching minutes 40 to 48 of The Thing. If you're playing along at home, please stop. We can't urge you to not do this with us enough. This idea was ridiculous from the beginning, and it gets patently worse every time we record one of these. Please, just go and watch the film like a normal human being would. Or an imitation. All right. Now I will read out my section headers, which summarize like 20 to 30 seconds of action in the film, and we will discuss them. Peter, if you have anything you want to say, chime in. Otherwise, I'll keep rolling along like a thiacol.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dramatic sting over the hole in the ice. Nice to have that little bit that we were watching last time rounded out. Like I was saying last time, it's probably the first section where it's just cut in a really weird place. We cut back to the base at night.
So, yeah, it is interesting. Well, I guess I got it right that they do cut straight back from here.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that they just decide not to explore the ship at all.
You see, you've raised a very interesting point, and I know we were sort of like teasing at the edges of this last time, right? How do we know they don't? There's a whole section here where 3 characters are just not on screen at all. Every time someone's completely out of shot in this film, you have to be wondering what is happening to them. Like, because there are definitely thing assimilations that occur off screen. In fact, the bulk of them, I guess. So we're left with a point now where you see the 3 men discovering the thing in the ice, and they know the UFO is there, and then it just cuts back, and just some time has passed. What's happened to them? You'd think they would go and look in the UFO, don't you? But, well, they say they didn't.
So we're saying that actually, so maybe a lot of people are saying that this is a suspicious part of the film for these 3 characters.
Yeah, I definitely think rapid time passing where you don't see what's happening in this film should at least be questioned.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it could be similar sort of reasoning to before, where they don't have a lot of time because it's getting late or whatever, and so they have to go back before doing any more exploration.
Yeah, the storm is still pressing.
Yeah, so there's that to think about. But you do raise a good point. It does put a question mark on these 3 characters. However, who are the 3 characters?
Norris, Palmer, and McCready. I think Norris is on your definitely a thing list.
Norris is on my definitely a thing list.
But what, do you think he would strike here if he was given the opportunity? I mean, Norris and McCready are alone because we see them, approaching the ship while Palmer is off guarding the helicopter or whatever it is exactly he's doing.
But he's still kind of looking over, isn't he?
Yeah. That's my question, is that maybe he just doesn't have the opportunity because it is 3 of them.
So I'm thinking it's probably that. I do think that McCready is not infected, mainly for the reason that he works too hard against the things during the rest of the film.
Quite.
And that just seems like it would be counterproductive. Like, I'm pretty sure that he comes up with the blood test method that we see later on, and why would he even suggest that if he was a thing? So I don't think that this is suspicious from that perspective, but yeah, I mean, sure, maybe something could have happened, and it is a bit weird that they didn't go into the ship.
John Carpenter notes here in the DVD commentary that, this is the first of their night shots on the set, filmed at night, and they were very difficult to do for a number of reasons: lighting, temperature, getting the cast there. So that's a thing.
Yeah.
Ding. The men argue about the thing. Okay, so sorry, probably tangential. They've got an asteroids game. That's amazing.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, Asteroids released in 1979, and like the machine that they've got on set is a real working one, and apparently everyone was playing it like when they weren't filming.
Nice.
Blair here seems very quiet and thoughtful. Like he spends a lot of the scene brooding over a picture of the Norwegians digging the monster out of the ice. I think at this point he's put it all together, or he's very close to.
Yeah, but the thing that I am not sure about here is why is Childs quite so skeptical about this voodoo bullshit? Because at this point, they know there's a spaceship, they've seen it on the video, and they've also gone and seen it.
You've got to note in the scene that everyone who hasn't specifically flown to see the spaceship is a little wary of it. I mean, even Gary is skeptical, despite the fact that they've brought back some pieces of UFO with them.
But they had video footage that they all saw of the Norwegians standing around it as well, didn't they? So they've got quite a lot of evidence that this spaceship is a real thing at this point, but also all of them, including Childs, has seen the bad monster and knows that there's something wrong.
I mean, it could be denial, but also, I don't know. If you put me in the same situation, I'd probably be able like, no, this is crazy.
I mean, maybe I'd be hesitant, but he's like, this is all obviously bullshit when he's seen stuff.
And there is no other explanation for the stuff that they're seeing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, after I saw that thing burst, you couldn't convince me that it was a like a polar bear or something.
Yeah, even if the spaceship is some sort of clever fake or something, there's still the matter of the nasty tendril monster.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I hadn't quite thought about that, but what is it? Methinks the lady doth protest too much.
Yeah, it's weird, maybe even slightly suspicious, but who knows?
Knowles arrives to complain someone's left their dirty drawers in his kitchen trash can. First of all, like, gross. Why did he bring them? McCready is like, he picks them up. Why would he pick them up? It's
gross.
The implication here is the first of many. Like there'll be another one in a little while that it rips through your clothes when it's taking you over.
Yeah.
The dirty drawers get dropped onto a pinball machine, and the pinball machine is Heatwave from 1964, made by Williams. Yes, it is absolutely possible to look up every single fact about this movie online.
So, as for whose drawers we think these are, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, if it's anyone's, I guess I'm going with Norris at this point. But
you think they might be Norris's dirty drawers?
Be interesting to know about who goes near the kitchen to see who might be plausible for that. Also, this is something that makes me currently suspect Knowles less at this moment, because if he was a thing,
why would he do this?
Why would he draw attention to this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's two other things that I could probably draw your attention to here. Number one is that I said, wait, I was... I'll allow it, but reluctantly.
Come on, that was clear. You said, and you said there are two other.
Oh God! All right. It's a fair cop.
Unless you are saying there are two other monsters that you'd like to.
Don't have to remind me of the rules. It's my game. There are two other elements of the story I could draw your attention to at this point. First of all, I'm not sure if we brought it up before, but there is a deleted scene with Fuchs just running around the base. It sort of establishes that he does jogging, even though he's in Antarctica. So he goes through the kitchen and a number of other locations. So that's a thing that may cast some suspicion in his direction.
Okay.
And also in the script and the novelization, but didn't actually make it into the film, is the fact that the Long Johns are a size large, and not all of the men are large. Some are extra large.
Right, okay.
So there, if we're allowing the original script and the novelization, which I don't know if we are, I don't think so. It eliminates child because he's an extra large.
Right. I think we said that those were inadmissible as evidence.
Yeah,
before.
I agree. I think that's the case.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's something to think about anyway. I don't really suspect Fuchs anyway for reasons that we'll get into later. But yeah, interesting.
Blair doesn't answer any questions about the thing, so he's just sitting there brooding the entire time. I mean, people directly ask him questions, and he just looks at them.
So, why do we think he's being as cagey as he is here? What do we think the tactic is here?
Well, I mean, he doesn't know if any of them are. Well, going back to what we saw in the last 8-minute section, is Blair is highly suspicious of Clark.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know if Clark thing could have gotten to anyone else in the, almost a day now that they've been just hanging around on the base. Yeah, I just think he doesn't want to tip his hand here. I think he's, playing his cards very close to his chest.
Oh, that's two different cards metaphors that you used in a very appropriate context. Well done.
Thank you. I was very pleased. I'm glad you drew attention to it. So now I sound even smarter.
Yeah. Again, calling back to the poker game, of course, that they were playing earlier.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So,
if they were filming this now, that poker scene would be like 15 times longer, and they'd have a really long discussion about bluffing while they, the camera panned around right behind their heads, looking at all of their eyes one at a time.
Yeah, and there'd be like a little thought bubble coming out of Blair's head.
I think Clark is the thing.
Thinking about the poker game and thinking about the monster. Just as heavy-handed a metaphor as possible.
He'd perhaps draw a picture of the thing playing cards.
Yes. He'd have a dream about that.
Yeah. Oh dear. We're skewering this, but they are making a new Thing movie. So who knows what we've got to look forward to.
Maybe we can discuss that 8 minutes at a time as well. So, yeah, I think he's... I guess I'm just trying to think, okay, what would the downside of tipping his hand at this point be? Because if he's worried about this, wouldn't it be a good thing for other people to know what his concerns are and be as suspicious as he is?
What if all of them are infected?
I feel like if all of them are affected, he's kind of fucked anyway. So.
I think Blair's motivation here is that he just doesn't know who to trust. I mean, he even says this in maybe 10 minutes time.
It's true, because I suppose if you were actually in this situation, you'd be thinking, do I tell people? Is there a downside? I don't even know. Maybe I should just not say anything. I guess you wouldn't necessarily be able to figure out all of the variables of whether it's best to say or not.
And going back to the forbidden script, deleted scenes, novelization stuff, there's a scene just before this where Blair has put it all together, and he goes to Gary, the base commander, and says, "Look, we can't ever contact anyone ever again until we figure this shit out." And Gary is not on his side. Gary is kind of like, something bad has happened here, but we need to bring in experts to figure out what's happened, which of course is a very bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's pushed Blair a little bit towards what his inevitable course of action will be.
Yeah.
We cut to Blair running a computer simulation of the Thing assimilation. Oh, I didn't read that aloud before I said it, and it's nicely poetic.
It is, yeah.
At the end, we'll perform the Thing rap.
We won't. So this is what I've been waiting for. I knew this happened at some point soon. I just couldn't quite figure out when. I didn't remember the preceding conversation before it, but I was pretty close with what happens next.
Yeah.
It is this point. We see this lovely simulation, which is somewhat reminiscent of Conway's Game of Life in a way.
On the DVD special features, they describe it as asteroids.
It is a bit like it's like a kind of cross between Asteroids and Conway's Game of Life, I would say.
The special effects here are done by John Wash. He also worked with John Carpenter on the computer effects for Escape from New York, and he's had a prolific visual effects career, including Star Wars, The Thing, Escape from New York, Blade Runner, 2010, Point Break, Patriot Games, Free Willy, Demolition Man, Ghost in the Machine, Time Cop, Outbreak, Tank Girl, The Relic, and The X-Files. That's a lot of good things under one man's belt. Did you notice anything about this little visual sequence of the Thing cell infecting other cells?
I don't think I do notice, no.
John Carpenter notes that they didn't get it quite right. It sort of just keeps eating and never dividing. Like, if it worked the way it appears in the little video, all that would happen is the Thing would just be one really big cell. It keeps grabbing other cells and pulling them in, but it never divides into other cells. That was what they missed out. But they said it doesn't really matter. It gets the point across. This thing, it doesn't have to be like perfectly accurate. Why did you ding me?
Because you said it gets the point across. This.
I am so bad at this game today. Interestingly, this is one of the things I like about the prequel. They fixed this little problem. Interestingly, this is one of the elements I like about the prequel. I'm cutting that. You can't have two dings. Yeah, this is something
Something is okay, I think.
All right. This is an aspect of the prequel I find good. I'm frightened now. I'm so scared. In the prequel, rather than using computer simulations for it, because I think that they realized that if they did this sort of simulation with, 2010s computer technology trying to look like 1980s computer technology, everyone will find it a little bit ridiculous. They just shy away from the idea. Right. And instead she observes the process directly through a microscope. So It is CGI, but like it's modern CGI that they don't have to dress down to look like 80s stuff. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah.
They see Thing cells attacking dog cells and then dividing into more Thing cells.
So, I mean, when at the beginning of this sequence, I thought, okay, fair enough. He's used some sort of advanced software to write a little simulation of a cell taking over another cell. Sure. That could maybe happen. We whipped something up in the old computer science lab.
in BASIC.
Yeah. It's just that as this proceeds, the calculations that it is doing seem less and less plausible.
Increasingly maddening. Yeah. We're going to talk about, in the section Let's Not Talk About the Thing, at some point, we're going to talk about The Things, which is a pseudo-sequel written by Peter Watts. And it's not official in any way. It's a short story. And a lot of people really enjoy it because it's the Thing as told from the point of view of the Thing. And from its point of view at this point, it is programming the computer to try and get Blair to reach the conclusions that it wants. Which I think was a nice touch, because obviously, this little bit is a bit hokey. I mean, I love the movie to bits, but this bit is exposition for that last little bit of the audience who haven't quite crossed the finish line on what the Thing is and what it's doing. I mean, he doesn't quite have bullet points, but it's pretty damn close. The probability that one or more team members is infected, 75%.
All right, so let's dive into this, shall we?
Yeah, what is he putting in to reach that conclusion? I really want to see his work.
This is definitely going to be the longest episode yet, because, okay, so... I mean, how would you figure this out? I guess you'd have to figure out, okay, you'd have to put in variables like, okay, so how many people are in the base?
Yeah.
And how many rooms is it likely that the dog has been into? What is the chance that a dog has been in the same room as a human? for a decent enough length of time for the assimilation to occur. There's like stuff you could do, but all of the numbers would be such rough estimates.
Yeah. There's, I mean, unless he's typed 75% into Notepad, I don't see how he reached this conclusion.
Yeah.
I mean, but you've got factors as well. Like, not everyone was around the base at the same. Like, people left and came back, and he doesn't know how long the infection process takes. I mean, is it instantaneous, or does it take like an hour?
Yeah, it hasn't really seen that. So there's so much. It's like the Drake equation, right? It's like...
Absolutely. I really want to see the Drake thing equation.
Yeah, it's like you got all of these variables which can, in theory, be used to calculate the possibility of aliens, which is what the Drake equation is. But almost all of the variables are just complete unknowns. So,
is this a corollary to the Drake equation? The chance that alien life exists, and also the chance that it will assimilate you within 24 hours of you meeting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really legitimately wish we got some more of his working, because it's. I mean, it's bollocks, isn't it? There's no way. There's no way you could figure this out.
I don't think so. I mean, I guess if he has actually been able to do enough study of the cells to understand how long it would take a cell to assimilate another one, and used a computer to simulate that, he could maybe figure out how long it would take for the thing to take over a body. So maybe give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's got that much.
Yeah,
but everything else, who knows?
I mean, plus it is interesting that we saw a single thing cell taking over other cells, because that does suggest that one cell of the thing is enough to start the transformation process in you. Your body doesn't have an immune system that will fight thingification. So once you get one cell in you, that's it. Eventually, you're going to be all thing. It's just going to take a long-ass time.
Yeah, because on screen, we see like thing attacks happening very rapidly.
At the risk of again drawing on tertiary sources like the novelization and the comics, wow, they are contentious. Oh, we should talk about the comics at some point. Yeah. But yes, it does seem to suggest that one cell is enough to take you over, but because there are so many cells in you, if you get one in you, it's going to take like a year, I mean, well, actually it's exponential. Oh god, this episode is going to be so much maths.
Yeah, I believe like it's that whole grains of rice on a chessboard right? thing, right? So it would actually happen quicker than you think, maybe. But,
and all I know is that human beings do not deal with exponential maths, and that's happy living in my ignorance there. But the point of it, like, attacking you, violating you, pumping so much of itself into you so quickly is to, like, overwhelm you, right? So, you don't have any chance. Your body is converted as quickly as possible. Yeah. And who's to say that in the Thingiverse, in the rest of the universe, every form of life might be like that. It might fight back, can resist conversion. So maybe it's just using what it knows of just, like, I've got to overwhelm as quickly as possible, even though it doesn't really know that we don't have any natural defenses against it. Hashtag coronavirus. Sorry. I'm an idiot.
But yeah, it does kind of open up this whole interesting world of possibility where, well, is anyone who has touched anything now basically infected, but undergoing a process of much more gradual assimilation that will accelerate at some point.
Yeah, in one of the comics, I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, someone is thingified by sexual contact, and they start having weird nightmares because of the slow conversion that obviously is like picking up speed because of exponential growth.
I'm thinking, is this why? Because I know that Blair later goes off on his own.
Yeah.
And shuts himself away. And I wonder if the calculation here is that he's doing this as much to protect himself from the others as he is to protect the others from him, because he's worried that he could already be slowly getting infected by this
Oh,
thing.
absolutely. He was elbow deep in that thing, as we saw last
Yeah.
session. There's also something that neither of us mentioned. I mean, I've seen it before. He's gesturing at the thing body during the autopsy with a rubber-topped pencil, and he touches the rubber to the thing, and then he touches the rubber to his mouth.
Ooh, he eats a bit of thing.
Yeah, he eats just a teeny thing chunk, and
that's a no-no in the medical world.
This is why you've got to wear your mask.
Yeah.
Oh dear. But it's unclear whether that was deliberate direction or whether it was just an accident that happened. Yeah. But people have noticed it in the past.
Still, I suppose we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with Blair here.
Absolutely. The next fact the computer spits at us: the time to take over the whole world from first exposure, 27,000 hours. 27,000 hours is just slightly over 3 years.
Okay.
Do you agree with that figure? Do you think 3 years is right? Again, this is another one of those Drake equation math steals, right?
I mean, I haven't given it a ton of thought, I have to say, but it kind of sounds all right to me. It like, if you assume that initially there would be quite a rapid period of expansion, and then people would start getting wise to it.
I mean, what Blair has programmed here is it is a very basic version of the game Plague Inc., right? Or Pandemic. Right. Yeah. If Madagascar closes its ports, the thing is fucked, right? Isn't that the deal?
Right, yeah. So I feel like it could probably conceal itself long enough to become a real problem.
Yeah. Remember that its sort of de facto attack method is to hide and wait.
Yeah. So I think there'd initially be a period of really rapid expansion where it would just slip under the radar for a long time, but at some point, not long after it gets in, it's going to make a mistake, and then that news is eventually going to get out.
Basically, at some point, someone is going to see the thing vent.
Yeah, and at that point, people are going to start locking down, but it's difficult to detect, so mistakes are going to be made with the locking down as well. So then it's probably going to slow down, but there's probably just going to be cracks in the ability to shut this thing down that would make it so that it eventually continues spreading outwards. Maybe it could manage a total takeover in about 3 years, perhaps. But as for how Blair programmed in this conclusion, again, who knows?
In the German and Spanish dubs of the film, this image is mistranslated as 27 hours because of the comma.
Oops. Yes, of course. They use comma to be a decimal point. So it's
I probably can't do it in under a day. That would be wow.
Yeah. They're saying it's saying it's not only around 27 hours, it's exactly 27.000 hours.
27 hours to the second.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just a silly fact, but I like it. We see Blair draw a revolver from his desk.
Foreshadowing some of his later issues that we will get into later.
His gun is a Colt Detective Special.
I did notice that there was, over this whole segment actually, there's kind of a lot of orchestral music still going on. It actually sounds like it's similar, if not the same music to what is playing when they're exploring the base.
The Norwegian camp.
Yeah, so I think this maybe blows a hole in the whole.
I was wondering when we get to your theory.
The thing is here, the thing is not here with the orchestral music theory. I don't think that's right anymore. I think there's just more orchestral music in this film than I remembered there being.
We cut to Macready drinking and thoughtfully looking at the torn long johns.
So he's supposed to be thinking that now Macready is also putting it together.
Yeah, absolutely. Bennings and Windows are moving the Thing bodies into the storeroom. So, unlike a lot of these interior shots, this was actually filmed on location. So out of the window there is real snow on the glacier in Stewart, British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Much of the interior stuff was filmed in a set in Los Angeles at Universal Studios. But to keep up the breath and everything, they had to chill the set down to around 4 degrees Celsius when it was almost 40 outside. And the cast kept getting sick from going between the hot and the cold all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun. And often they would, because it would take so long to get in and out of like the heavy parkas and stuff, they'd just wear them like when they left the set to go to the cafeteria.
Yeah, that sounds really unpleasant. Actually, I feel really bad whenever I'm going from hot to cold and back again. Yeah,
it's not great. Fuchs insists that Mac talk with him outside in private. Is that a good
idea? I don't think it's a good idea, but it does make me suspect Fuchs less, considering what happens after that.
Yeah. I mean, like, they actually play with this in the prequel a bit, where the lead character, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Kate, she's another character is like, I found some evidence of perhaps the Thing. Come with me alone to this room, and we'll look at it together. Which doesn't end well.
No.
But here, like you say, I think Fuchs is perhaps being naive more than anything else.
Yeah, so I mean, not everyone has quite put it all together yet. Anyway, and I think if he was the Thing in this situation, he'd just take Macready outside and probably just immediately attack at that point.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
Rather than go into a lengthy explanation of
this is
Blair's.
How you can catch me.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really suspect Fuchs at this point for that reason.
They go to talk in the Thiokol, which is one of the snow vehicles, a tracked vehicle designed to run along the top of the snow. You don't really see it doing anything in this film really much, but in the prequel they have one and they go exploring in it.
Mm-hmm.
When Windows and Bennings have their back to the monster, it moves slightly. Oh, this scene is so creepy. I love it.
It's a very effective shot, isn't it? Because the thing I like about it, yes, well done.
Finally, 1-1.
What I like about it is that it's not a big movement. It's a movement that initially you can almost think, like, did I just make myself think that moved?
Is that the blanket settling? No.
Yeah. Every time I see that bit, I think to myself, did it really move? Yeah, no, yeah. It did move. Yeah,
it did move. I mean, it's accompanied by the score getting a little spicier, so I think definitely it's.
Yeah, but it's just subtle enough to make you doubt yourself for a second, which I really like about it. It's a very effective shot. Another aspect of it that I think is really effective is that when it moves, I think it's out of focus as well. So it's focused on the characters in the background. So it's not very often, I think, that a film draws your attention to something that is in the foreground but out of focus. It's a very interesting choice.
Yeah, I like that shot a lot. The thing that they've got under the tarpaulin there is the split face thing. Both of those are legitimate. I'm not having this. The capital T thing that's under the blanket is the split face thing, which is all with hyphens.
Oh no, sorry. Okay, right. I apologize. You're totally right. Those were legitimate. I thought you were talking about the mechanism.
Where was I?
You were talking about
This
the
game is
split
so
face.
this game is so distracting.
You were talking about the split face capital T thing.
Yes. He is the body that they retrieved from the Norwegian Tula station, and it has been dead and burned for hours, possibly days, more likely days at this point, and it is still alive.
Yeah, so we were talking about this a little bit in the last podcast about whether we assume that when something is burned up this way, it is dead. At the time, I said I thought it was, but I had forgotten about this bit of the film, and I am now revising that assessment.
I mean, it's sort of clear from this point on that you'd have to just completely annihilate it, right? Even a cell left is going to be enough for it to start regenerating. Like, I assume it's just sort of reusing the mass that's left as fuel to create more thing cells.
It's a real problem. I mean, sure, it could have been pretty dormant up until this point, but yeah, it's a worry.
I mean, because they've definitely had it like lying around in the lab and looking at it, and it's been a long time since it's done anything. So, has it been aware all this time and biding its time up until it got to poor Bennings, or was he just unlucky with his timing? We'll never know.
Very hard to say.
Bennings sends Windows to get the keys from Gary. This begins the saga of the keys. Please keep an eye out for people talking about the keys, where the keys are. There's this whole little thing about the keys from now on for the rest of the film.
I haven't even clocked any of this. So you're going to have to talk me through this whole keys thing as it happens.
All right. Well, we're about to get some more key stuff. I'm very excited for it.
Right. Okay.
The end.
Actually,
maybe
I'm sorry. What keys? Keys to what? First is my first question.
Well, it does get explained outright a little bit later on, but Gary has a set of keys for the base, and he has keys for secured areas that other members of the team can't generally get into, like some of the medical supplies are locked away, and only Gary has a key, and Doc Copper has to get Gary to unlock them when he needs those supplies, that sort of thing.
Right.
Bennings here is sending Windows to go and get the key so they can lock the things in the storeroom,
right,
securely in there, and Gary would be the only person who can, get in and out.
Right.
Bennings fixes the window, unaware of dripping tendrils behind him. This is a lovely gross shot as well. The unsuspecting Bennings is about to get a handful of tendrils right up the bum. That's what I've written.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Bennings, but also, this confirms that I was not correct in my assumption that Bennings was infected at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious he's about to be thingified.
Mm-hmm.
This whole little sequence of Bennings and the bodies, that's a really bad name, was an on-location rewrite. Bennings' original death in the script was, I think we talked about it a little bit last time. At a certain point through the film, all the dogs escape, and they realize that the thing is making a break for it with the dogs as food across the ice to try and reach McMurdo Station. So they chase them down with the snowmobiles, and there's a big fight, and Bennings is pulled under the ice and killed by a thing. And they didn't film this because it would have been very expensive to film. So his death then became that he was found murdered with a screwdriver in the kennels. That whole thing was set up to throw a bit more suspicion onto Clark. That's good. But they didn't like it because they thought it, like John Carpenter thought it was a bit slasher movie-esque, just finding a body stabbed with a screwdriver. So it got rewritten, and his death got moved up here to showcase the thing a little bit more, because otherwise it had been out of the film for quite some time before its next appearance. So
yeah,
I think it was a very good decision.
I think it's a good call. Yeah, I wonder how common these kind of on location rewrites are. It's usually for some sort of reason that happens during the shoot that kind of forces their hand. I remember that famous one from Indiana Jones, the first film, where instead of having the big sword fight, he just shoots the swordsman.
Because he's so ill with dysentery.
Yes.
All Harrison Ford could do is shoot him and then go and lie down.
Yeah, even like when he turns around, he just looks rotten after. Looks like even that was a lot of effort. It's quite fun to watch that scene, knowing that.
There are a lot of rewrites in The Thing. I mean, I'll bring them up as we hit them. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting, because some films are just ruined by this. I mean, I only have very limited experience as a director where I tried to direct something and it all went wrong. When you're filming something, it seems that you've really got to have like an excellent overview of the whole thing, because you're filming things, because you're filming shots out of order, and you might not have some cast on some days and some cast on other days, and like there are effects in shots and everything. So,
this is exactly what I was thinking, that it must really be a logistics nightmare to change how you're going to do something in the middle of filming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there have been films which have filmed where they've realized when they get to the editing suite that they've forgotten to film something because of the confusion. There's a film that I watched quite recently, The Snowman, and it's like a Norwegian crime thriller. And it wasn't very well received because the plot is very complicated. And it turned out that literally that when they were filming, like because of constant rewrites, they missed a whole chunk of the movie out and they didn't have the money to go back and reshoot it, like an actual whole section of the plot. So they had to kind of infer it with voiceovers and things.
Just like that bit in Dark Place where
when they're all standing talking to a pot plant for 20 minutes because they're doing pickup dialogue.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, it's something about filmmaking I'm very interested in. Like, I think directors really must have minds like steel traps to keep on this, especially now. Like, a lot of movies will just be some people in green suits talking to green things, and then all of that's going to be done in a computer at some point 3 months down the line.
At some point, this will all somehow be coherent. Like
outside, Fuchs and Macready talk in the cab of the snowplow. Again, on the director's commentary, they're talking here about how it's very difficult to film this stuff because it's so cold outside. They have to leave all the camera lenses outside. They can never bring them in because if they bring them inside, they fog up and they're very difficult to clean.
Yeah.
So they have to leave them outside in a special box in the snow. Fuchs is worried. Blair has locked himself away and won't answer his door. So here's what you were getting at earlier with Blair's put it together and he doesn't want to be around anyone else at this point. Fuchs reads some of his greatest hits out of the lab book, and there are some really great quotes in there. The chameleon strikes in the dark. Oh, I love that one. That would have been a good tagline.
Is that true?
The chameleon strikes in the dark, ? I think they eat flies.
Yeah.
I think the chameleon strikes when it's hungry, but that's not
when there's a fly. Yeah.
And also, of course, they're not dead yet, which, very true. We've seen that one. Elsewhere, Windows returns with the keys to see Bennings wrapped in thrashing tendrils. Here's the next part of your keys saga if you're playing along at home. He drops the keys and he runs away.
Ah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this, again, makes me think that Windows is safe at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't just look on and go, yes, excellent, just what I wanted.
Yes, that tracks. Let's, should I stay and watch, or... No, it's a bit rude in our culture.
Poor Peter Maloney, who played Bennings, had to be sitting in that chair for like 4 hours, almost naked, slathered in jelly.
Looks kind of gross.
And also, it's very cold because, of course, they're filming it on location and they've broken a window. So...
Speaking of very cold, so at this point, Windows runs out towards the what are we calling it? The tractor.
The fire call, please.
The fire, yeah.
Is it ridiculous to point out that it's not a Thiokol they're in? They're in a snowcat. They do have a Thiokol.
So he runs out towards the snowcat, and he is not wearing much, considering.
What does Macready say? It's 40 below outside?
Yeah, and he does not have a jacket on in that scene, I think.
Hang on, I'm going to go look up what minus 40 Fahrenheit is. Oh, that's minus 40. Shit, I need to leave that in now. I think I realized that now. It's one of the ones where it's the same, I think.
That's the point where it crosses, yeah. So that's really cold.
Yeah, absolutely. The coldest I've ever been is when I was in Wisconsin in winter, and we were parked on the other side of a highway from a Pizza Hut, right?
Yeah.
And we were going to go outside and cross the parking lot, cross the road, go to Pizza Hut, get pizza. And I was like, well, I probably don't need to put a t-shirt. I've got a t-shirt. I wasn't naked. Jesus. I probably don't need to. I've got a hoodie and a t-shirt on. I probably don't need my coat. We can just cross quickly and get back.
Yeah.
And it was minus 20 Celsius outside.
Yeah.
And I got 20 feet from the front door and I started to die. Like, I was like, I have to go back. If I keep going, I will be in the middle of that road and I will drop down dead. Like, I will not be able to function. Like, he runs quite far, like, considering that it's at least twice as cold as that.
So I've never been in temperatures as cold as that. I've been skiing and I've been on top of mountains where it's been pretty cold, probably a little bit below freezing. But I've been wrapped up warm in those situations, and I imagine that it's almost impossible to function in minus 40 not wearing a jacket.
Yeah, and I mean at minus 20 in just a light hoodie and a t-shirt, I couldn't talk because I was freezing.
Yeah.
So he just whips out and he's like, "It's Bennings!" And then they go back inside. I was wondering previously about why he just says it's Bennings and no more clarification than that. But also, he's really fucking cold. That's why.
That's probably all he can get out.
Bennings, and then he passes out.
Yeah.
Bennings runs out into the snow, chased by the other men. MacReady lights a flare here to, get a better look at it. And in the director's commentary, they are always talking about these flares. They are just a sort of stick of phosphorus that burns. You see that stuff that's dripping out of them? That's white hot phosphorus, and it will burn you.
Nasty.
Yeah, these are real, really hot flares they're using, and they were like, not a day went by when someone didn't get burned by the flares. Also, the fumes are like choking. I'm pretty certain breathing phosphorus is like a bad idea. Probably another thing that they got away with in this movie that got banned shortly afterwards on health and safety grounds. The men surround the Bennings thing, which holds up its mutated arms. And that's where we leave this 8-minute section. Again, this is just another awkward cut.
Yeah, so, just a bit of housekeeping here, I guess, at the end of this segment. So we know he wasn't wearing all of his clothes just before Windows runs out. So
yeah, that's an interesting point that I meant to make a note on, but apparently forgot. Is that during the horror scene bit where Windows turns back on, he's like, "Oh, I've got the keys, Bennings." There's squishy, mulchy noises in the background, and he looks down, and there's blood on the floor, and there are bloody clothes on the floor.
Yeah, so we know, or we're pretty sure that clothes assimilation isn't a thing. Yeah, that's fair.
But it raises an interesting point, right? Are the clothes on a Thing copy clothes or part of it? Does it take you over and then have to go and find a shirt? Is that the thing? Or is it imitating a shirt as well?
I don't think it's imitating a shirt, because otherwise, why wouldn't it just absorb the shirt and then that would be it, right? So I think the implication is definitely that it doesn't assimilate clothes; it has to find other clothes to wear. So presumably, after Windows runs out, the Thing then throws a jacket and some trousers on very quickly.
Oh yeah, I think he's wearing trousers. I think it's just his shirt that he's lost.
Yeah, so throws a jacket on and then just runs outside while still kind of mid assimilation.
Yeah. I was saying, for those of you who are playing Among Us, this is like getting caught going into an event or killing someone in front of 3 other people.
Yeah.
Bennings is sus.
Just like, I'll just vote for myself, I guess, in this round.
I've got nothing here, guys. I can't tell you it's not me. It's definitely me. I'm the imposter.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, like I say, we do end awkwardly here with Bennings. He turns to the camera and he's about to emit his. Well, we can't talk about it. You don't know what he's about to emit. Could be candy.
Well, I think you hear the very beginning of it at the when it cuts out. So you hear some sort of noise starting to emerge, but I think it's
just starting to make a noise. But
it's going to reach its full splendor in the next segment.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which.
So, now that we've reached the end of that segment, where they're not parts or... What was I saying before? Sections.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't work well anymore. I've been locked inside for 7 months. What happens next, Pete? I think this might be an easy one. Do you think they're going to all go and give Bennings a big open mouth kiss? Is that what you think's going to happen next?
Yeah, they're all like, I want some of this thing action, and they
cool.
all live happily ever after.
Bennings holds up his hands. They all receive weird high fives.
Yeah. So I've got a pretty clear memory of what happens immediately next. So Bennings is going to continue emitting that shriek that he does, and then they are going to see. I was going to say that he definitely gets on fire. I think it's just the flamethrower. I know that he burns in the snow. That he's on fire in the snow, and I think it's to do with the flamethrower. But now, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, where does the flamethrower come from? Did they just come out with it? I'm not sure. So, there might be something about gasoline, maybe. I feel like there might be something to do with gasoline getting chucked over him.
All right, so I've got down here as your final answer. Bennings is doing a shriek, and they set him on fire, possibly with the flamethrower, possibly with gasoline,
or both. But I feel like there's a gasoline thing happening.
Now I must ask you who you think is infected at this point.
Right. So I've taken some names off of my maybe list, but not really added any at this point. So
I was gonna say you haven't added anyone to your infected list. Are you umming and ahhing over Bennings?
Well, I think Bennings is clear, but I mean, he's basically exposed at this point. Yeah, so at this point, Bennings is definitely infected. He wasn't before.
Oh, we've got Norris and Bennings, those guys.
So Norris, I still think is infected. I mean, we've got to say at least someone else is infected. Otherwise, the film is just about to be over. But given that conversation earlier, I'm now not convinced that, say, Blair isn't infected, but not to the point that he is aware of it yet. So I guess there's a question here is, do we only count infected as is fully the thing and doesn't and is hiding?
I mean, I would say yes. It's the point where they're no longer a human being. They're an imposter acting with their own motivations. Because otherwise, they could. One of the things could have sneezed on them as they all walked by.
Right. Okay, then. So from that perspective, I think Blair is still safe at the moment, but could have been exposed to the thing.
Right.
And I think that Fuchs is not infected at the moment. I'm going to move that to a firm no.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Windows is not infected.
He definitely did some behavior there.
Yeah. And finally, I think Knowles is definitely in the firm no column at the moment as well.
Right.
Because of the earlier coming to complain about the dirty drawers.
The draws. That just leaves Clark then on your list previously. Where do you think he is right now? He was in the not infected list. Is he still there?
I don't feel like I've been given any particular reason to be suspicious of Clark.
He's not really done much in this segment, has he? He was there at the start and now.
Yeah, I don't think he's really moved.
I mean, he is there during the group scene where they're all talking, but he's just sitting quietly in the background reading a magazine.
Yeah, that just seems to be his character, though. He's not like one of the talkative ones. He doesn't say much.
No, very much so. No.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, in that case, we'll leave him on the not infected list for now. How do you feel about the film so far? I mean, we've seen 48 minutes of it. That's almost an hour, sort of.
Yeah, actually, this is. I would say this has been my favorite segment of the film so far. There's a lot going on. It's given me a lot to think about.
There's a lot of fun. We certainly have done some talking. It's an hour and a half so far before edits.
Yeah, there's a lot more variables in the who's infected, who's not infected. What does being infected actually mean? How does it exactly work? Than is maybe on the surface level of the film, and digging into this more has made me kind of maybe appreciate more the kinds of tension that the film has been building. Yeah, I've been enjoying it.
Excellent. That's very good to hear. Well, then that just leaves us with the duty of saying goodbye. What a weird way to say that.
Let's keep it. I like it. The duty of saying goodbye.
The duty of saying goodbye sounds like a Decemberist song.
It sounds like the name of a politician's autobiography or something.
Where can you be found on the internet, Peter?
I can be found at Kestrel Pie on Twitter and various other things. That's Kestrel like the bird and Pi like the irrational number.
Where can I be found on the internet, Peter?
I'm doing both. Am I okay? You can be found at Kieran J. Walsh on Twitter. That is your name.
That is my name. Oh, dear. Well, this has been a long one, but well worth it. I had a very good time. Thank you, Peter, for, again, enduring my bullshit. And
my pleasure.
Thank you to everyone who is listening at home. Farewell to you and good tidings on this night. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.